3, 2, and 1. Hello, gang. Thank you to my friends at Parks Casino. I appreciate Parks Casino for allowing me to bloviate here on YouTube on a daily basis. Parks Casino is my casino of choice. They've got it all: action, excitement, headline entertainment. Check out the concerts, the comedy, the MMA, the boxing at the state-of-the-art Excite Center, plus thousands of hot slots, state-of-the-art sports book, beautiful poker room, collection of award-winning restaurants. This is how you win. They've got it all going on under one roof. Just announced for their headliners coming up at the Excite Center. Friday, May 30, country star Ashley McBryde. That's big. Saturday, June 7, the Long Island medium Teresa Caputo. The psychic medium Matt Frazier on April 18. The band live from Reading, PA on April 24. Good for them. Moving on up. Comedian Gary Owen, Larry the Cable Guy, Grammy winner, singer-songwriter Gary Clark Jr., comedian Mark Norman on July the 12th. Don't forget, dinner and drinks beforehand, play some games, enjoy the live entertainment. ParksCasino.com, that's where you go to get tickets for all the shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Parks Casino, you've got to be 21 in order to participate in the gambling activities. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, so thank you for all the voting at Smirconish.com this week. Signalgate has been huge for our voting, including yesterday, more than 35,000 cast ballots. Ethically speaking, when should journalist Jeffrey Goldberg have revealed his presence in the Houthi group chat on Signal? I said it yesterday during the program. I'll say it again today. I am not blaming Jeffrey Goldberg for any of this. I will talk about who deserves the most blame, because that's today's poll question. But it raises an interesting ethical issue, a journalistic ethical issue about Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic. When this thing drops in his lap, at what point, if ever, should he reveal his identity? Your choices were immediately, once the attack commenced, which is what he chose to do, or never. And in the voting, immediately edged out never. Once the attack commenced, third position. And of course, that's what ultimately he did. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. I know that it made for a wonderful conversation and a lot of stimulating phone calls yesterday and a lot of votes. Now, let's get to the real culpability issue, because this is the Friday poll question. Which was worse? Mike Waltz creating the Signal chat and including an outsider, or Pete Hegseth's revelations in that chat? I was thinking of heading in this direction, was curious to see who had opined on this already. I found Sabrina Singh at MSNBC saying that in her view, she thought it was Hegseth, and makes a compelling case. Quote, while Waltz has rightfully come under fire for starting the chat and adding Goldberg, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth deserves the most scrutiny. And I'm going to just skip around from her opinion piece. It was Hegseth who put the precise timing and sequencing of the entire operation into the unclassified text app. And it was Hegseth who put our brave service members, including the fighter pilots preparing to conduct the operation, in mortal danger. By typing this information into a Signal chat, Hegseth created the possibility that an adversary could see what the U.S. military was planning to do, who was being targeted, and when it was going to happen. All true. Quote, due to the incredible ineptitude of Hegseth and the individuals on the Signal thread, by somehow unknowingly inviting a reporter into their group chat, how can our allies and partners trust the United States with sensitive and classified information? Who is to say there aren't more of these chats? And by the way, I'm sure there are. And I say that there probably are because of the ease with which the 18 participants, in addition to Goldberg, who really didn't participate, but the 18, the principals, the ease with which they all played their roles. Like, notice there was nothing up front that we're aware of where they say, oh, how's this going to work? And what should we say? And what are the limitations? Instead, they just get right to it. So that's the case that says it was Hegseth. And you can make a compelling case. Sabrina Singh makes a compelling case that as between Waltz and Hegseth, it was Hegseth. In the second story from the Atlantic, the one that used attack plans in the headline, where story number one spoke of war plans. I don't think the semantic difference makes a great difference, but the White House certainly does. Anyway, in that second piece, there was this. The statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying, we the Atlantic, lying about the content of the signal texts, have led us to believe that people should see the texts in order to reach their own conclusions. So this was the Atlantic saying, okay, White House, we're going to call your bluff. You say this was no big deal, no harm, no foul. We're going to let the American people see and decide for themselves. Back to the Atlantic. As we wrote on Monday, much of the conversation in the Houthi PC small group concerned the timing and the rationale of the attacks on the Houthis and contained remarks by Trump administration officials about the alleged shortcomings of America's European allies. But on the day of the attacks, Saturday, March 15, the discussion veered toward the operational. At 11:44 a.m. Eastern Time, Hegseth posted in the chat, in all caps, team update. And the text beneath began, time now, 11:44 Eastern Time, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we are a go for mission launch. And then the Hegseth text says, 12:15 Eastern Time, F-18s launch, first strike package. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location and should be on time. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. So that's what Hegseth put in the chat. And the Atlantic says, let us pause here for a moment to underscore a plan. This signal message shows that the U.S. Secretary of Defense texted a group that included a phone number unknown to him, Goldberg's cell phone, at 11:44 a.m. This was 31 minutes before the first U.S. warplanes launched and 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of a period in which the primary target, the Houthi target terrorist, was expected to be killed by the American aircraft. If this text had been received by someone hostile to American interests or someone merely indiscreet and with access to social media, the Houthis would have had time to prepare for what was meant to be a surprise attack on their strongholds. The consequences for American pilots could have been catastrophic. All that is true and makes a compelling case as to the egregious indiscretion of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And yet, that's not my answer. My answer on the poll, I think Hegseth will, win the poll result, a dubious honor. But I go with Mike Waltz. And I go back now to the first Atlantic Jeff Goldberg piece where he writes, I accepted the connection request, hoping that this was the actual national security advisor and that he wanted to chat about Ukraine or Iran or some other important matter. 2 days later, Thursday, 4:28 p.m., I received a notice that I was to be included in a signal chat group. It was called the Houthi PC small group. A message to the group from Michael Waltz read as follows: Team, establishing a principles, misspelled, group for coordination on Houthis, particularly over the next 72 hours. My deputy, Alex Wong, is pulling together a Tiger team at deputies, agency, chief of staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and will be sending that out later in the evening. Please provide the best staff POC from your team for us to coordinate with over the next couple of days and over the weekend. Thanks. And I say, that's the original sin. Like, he set it up. But for Mike Waltz, there is no Pete Hegseth communication which lays out the war plan or the attack plan. What Hegseth did was indefensible. But Waltz was the guy who set it all up. Waltz was the guy who created the initial indiscretion that allowed all that flowed from it. But for this move by him, none of this would have happened. He should have known better. And then he errs further, and we still don't even know the story as to how this happened, by inviting an outsider. So, it's a twofer with regard to Mike Waltz. He set it up, and then he breached the circle. By the way, again, not implying that if he'd only kept Goldberg, the reporter, out, then all would have been well. No. But that's my answer. My answer was Mike Waltz. Which was worse, Mike Waltz creating the Signal chat and including an outsider, or Pete Hegseth's revelations in the chat? Again, I fully expect that Hegseth is going to carry the day, but he won't get my vote. Mike Waltz will. Mike Waltz will. So go to smirconish.com, cast your ballot on the Friday poll question, please. Like and subscribe, and set yourself up for notifications. I'm sure we're going to have big voting on this. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. So thanks for that. See ya.